Okay, welcome everyone to our webinar. Thank you for joining us. So we are going to get right to it because we have a packed agenda of some really exciting speakers. I'll just start by introducing myself. I'm Andrea Yona. I represent the Bird Foundation here in the United States. I am going to start by introducing, for welcoming remarks, Matt Higman. Matt is the Executive Vice President of Opportunity Miami from the Miami-Dade Beacon Council.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. Well, thank you. This is super exciting. And at the outset, just want to express our gratitude at Beacon Council to you, Andrea, and everyone at Bird Foundation, to the Israeli Consulate, to Enterprise Florida, and of course, give a shout out to my colleague, Greg, at Beacon Council. This is really exciting. And I say it's exciting because a year ago, Miami-Dade Beacon Council, our primary role is around trying to help attract companies to Miami and helping them expand in Miami. But we have an initiative called Opportunity Miami that really tries to look down the road, tries to think about the next 5, 10, 20 years and really lean into our economic future. And last year, we did a deep dive to really rethink that effort. And as we did that, we really hit upon that there are 3 things that we need to do well as a community. And this probably applies to many communities around the world as we think about our economic future, as we think about that Miami of 2040, the Miami that the child growing up today will find when they're ready to enter the workforce. And one, of course, is to continue all the work around entrepreneurship and innovation, the places where there's more company creation, and those are the places that are going to win. Number 2 is around talent and inclusion. Really building a uniquely diverse skilled workforce. And of course, in Miami, we're a place that 54% of the population was born outside the US. So a uniquely diverse environment. But third, and most important for our purposes this morning, is sustainability. And really seeing sustainability as a driver of our economic future. We're on a journey. Over the next 28 years, we're transitioning to a net zero economy. And on that journey, it will result in more new industries, more new companies, more new jobs. Bill Gates, after all, wrote that, that the country, in the book he wrote last year about this transition, he said that the countries that build the zero carbon companies of the future will lead the global economy. And, and with Opportunity Miami and at Beacon Council, we're really trying to lean into that and make that a reality. And seeing sustainability not as an impediment to economic growth, but indeed something that is going to drive our economic future, that is going to be a creator of jobs and companies going forward. And in so many ways, it was 10 years ago that we launched efforts in Miami to build Miami's tech ecosystem with the belief that talent and funding will become more mobile. And while they're primary centers of innovation in the world, that we'll see new emerging complementary centers of innovation. And Miami can be one of those places. And by the way, Israel has been a real inspiration in that work. We've had several delegations from Miami of entrepreneurs that we've taken to Israel that has really helped guide our efforts in Miami in building the tech ecosystem. But as we sit here today and look at the next 10 years, really think that it's Cleantech, that is the merger of sustainability and tech and innovation that's going to drive our future. And today is another step in that work. So just a hearty thank you to Andrea, to you and everyone at the Bird Foundation, Enterprise Florida, the Israeli Consulate, and of course, again, a shout out to my colleague, Greg, here at Beacon Council. So thank you.
Yes, I want to echo your shout out to Greg. Greg has been awesome in working with us in so many ways in bringing initiatives from Israel and companies from Israel and exciting tech from Israel to the Miami-Dade region. I think it's an exciting ecosystem, a growing one, and we're excited to be a part of it. So thanks, Greg. So next, I want to bring our very great partner who we could not have organized this all without, and that's Limor Ashkenazi. And Limor is Business Director of Enterprise Florida. And we also thank Limor for really bringing this all together with us. Limor.
Thanks, Andrea, and thanks, Matt, for that wonderful introduction. So hi everyone, thanks for joining us to learn about these exciting opportunities today. My name is Limor Ashkenazi, as Andrea mentioned, and I represent Enterprise Florida here in Israel, along with Noret Gazette. For those of you who don't know, Enterprise Florida is the official economic development organization of the state of Florida. Our main objectives are to promote Florida as a preferred business location for Israeli companies and to encourage economic collaboration between the state of Florida and the state of Israel. So we achieve this through our varied daily activities, which include creating awareness of the many advantages of the state of Florida, through identifying FDI investment opportunities from Florida within Israel. We also support companies who would like to open or expand their operations in Florida by providing assistance and numerous free of charge services, such as market information, site selection, regulatory assistance, incentive coordination, etc. We manage delegations to and from Israel, including high-level governor delegations. We identify and maintain strategic relationships and partnerships with public and private organizations on both sides, ranging from economic development organizations, governmental organizations, law firms, accelerators, VCs, as well as Israeli companies that are focused on the US and Latin America, just to name a few. And lastly, we initiate and promote innovation and R&D with leading Israeli organizations such as Israel Innovation Authority and Space Florida, and in this case, BIRD, to promote collaboration between Israeli and Floridian companies in key industries. So any companies or organizations that are participating in this webinar, if you're interested in how we can support them, both on BIRD projects or in general, please feel free to reach out. Our contact details will all be available at the end of the webinar, or you can also reach out on LinkedIn. So over to Mike from the Israeli.
I'll give a quick intro. Mike is Deputy Consul General of the Consulate of Israel in Miami. So Mike, please.
Thank you, Andrea, the Limors, Enterprise Florida, Matt, Deacon Council. Thank you for all the partners. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I think that Limor told everything about the collaboration, economic collaboration between Israel and the US. I just want to emphasize that Israel, the state of Israel, has put a tremendous effort in order to promote clean tech and sustainability, ecology. It's actually as a part of the future growth of the country, future growth of the alliance between the countries, and of course of economic development. So I invite you always to reach out to, if you have any question about the BIRD Foundation, of course, about other economic initiative. I'm also the economic affairs, the director here in the consulate, the economic attaché. So please feel free to contact us. Israel and the States are the best allies in the world, and we have to collaborate. We have to take this collaboration forward with economic initiative, especially in the sustainability and clean tech sectors. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm sure we're gonna enjoy a very good webinar.
Thank you, Mike. So now we are going to start the program with an overview on the BIRD Energy opportunity. My colleague Limor Nakar-Vincent, a different Limor, will give us that overview. Limor is the program director of BIRD Energy. She's also BIRD's deputy executive director. So I will turn it over to Limor.
Thank you, Andrea. And good evening or good afternoon for my fellows in Israel, and good morning to my fellows in the States and in Florida. So in the next 10 minutes, I'll try to give you a very clear briefing about the BIRD Energy and how can you utilize it as companies to get funding to develop new technologies with partners in Israel and the United States. So stay tuned with me. By the way, this program is going to be recorded, so we will have it on our website and we will send you a copy of it by the end of this meeting. So the BIRD Foundation was founded in 1977 by the Israeli and the US government to promote and support technological collaboration between Israeli and American companies. The idea is to share the risk with the companies and to bring to the market innovative technology that are being developed together jointly by Israeli and American companies. What do? We are a matchmaker. We assist in introducing companies to one another, but we also can provide conditional grants up to $1 million per project that can share the rest with the companies. And this funding is non-dilutive funding that fund the R&D costs associated with the joint project. Since it is public funding, if the project is successful and generates revenue, then the companies have to repay back the foundation 5% of the revenue that the technology that we supported it was generated revenue and created sales. So the BIRD Energy program began in 2009. It actually began before it, but we published the first call for proposal in 2009. BIRD Energy is the implementation of the cooperation agreements between the U.S. Department of Energy, the Israel Ministry of Energy, jointly with the Israel Innovation Authority. And since 2009, every year, we fund collaborations in the energy space between Israeli companies and American companies, or between Israeli companies or American companies and the academia. So the projects are being approved, the selected projects are being awarded by our BIRD Energy Executive Committee. We have representatives from the DOE, the Ministry of Energy in Israel, the Israel Innovation Authority, and the representative of the BIRD Foundation. The BIRD Energy model is as follows. The partnerships that can submit a proposal to BIRD Energy can be either a company in the States or a company in Israel, or it can also be between academia and companies. The BIRD Energy funds, as I said before, up to 50% of each company's R&D expenses associated with the project. But the maximum grant, conditional grants that we can fund the projects is $1 million. So basically for every dollar invested by the government, it yields at least $2 of activity through private sector cost sharing. Every year, as I said before, we publish our calls for proposal, and here is our call for proposal for 2022. As you can see, we are looking forward to fund projects in certain areas like renewable energy and energy efficiency, such as solar and wind power, advanced vehicle technologies, alternative fuels, smart grid, storage, water energy nexus, advanced manufacturing, AI for energy management, etc. We're especially looking forward to receive a proposal in innovation that scales up carbon-free technologies and reduces carbon emissions. It's important areas for both governments, and it's something that we want to support and promote. Additional areas of interest are natural gas and other associated technologies that reduces its climate impact. The submission deadlines for the first stage is June 30, 2022. So, as I said before, submissions can be done by two companies or a cooperation between a company and a university, as long as each a partner is from the US and the other one is from Israel. When it comes to deadline, it's important to remember that we usually start the process by both companies or both partners submitting an executive summary of their proposal. The executive summary is a short summary of what the companies wants to do together, and it really asks you to define what is the commercial outcome of the project. We have a very clear template, and we ask the companies to write us no more than 5 pages, explaining who are the companies or the partners involved with the project. What is the commercial outcome of the project? What is innovation behind the project, the relationship between the companies, and obviously also the forecast that the companies foresee for the product or technology they want to develop together. This executive summary needs to be submitted to the BIRD Foundation by June 30. Here on this webinar, I have my colleague Andrea Yona, but I have other colleagues who work with us, and we all want to support the companies together. So we usually urge you to reach out to us if you plan to submit a proposal, and we can also help you to define the product, to review the process, etc. Once you submit the executive summary, we review the project internally. Companies that we think have good chance of receiving the conditional grant, we will recommend you to prepare a full-scale proposal. The full-scale proposal is basically your plan, your joint plan that includes your R&D task, your marketing plan, commercialization plan, and etc. And based on the guidelines that we give the companies, this proposal needs to be submitted to the foundation by August 16, 2022. Once this proposal is submitted, there is external review that review those proposals. And usually these are technical people appointed by the DOE in the United States. And in Israel, it's appointed by the Israel Ministry of Energy and together with the Israel Innovation Authority. Each side review the proposal, and the board executive committee is going to meet in the beginning of November and select the project that they want to award. Once the projects are awarded, then we start the legal process when we want the company to submit to us company-to-company agreements. We want to make sure you have the matching funds to begin the project and end it. And obviously, once we sign the agreements with both companies, you start receiving funds. Both companies received advanced funding, and every 6 months they submit to us a technical report and a fiscal report, and based on the progress, we give them the next amount of funding until the end of the project. So over the years, we've celebrated, we mentioned 13 years. The Bird Energy program allocated almost $47 million to the companies. The private sector invested $62 million. We funded 60 projects, etc. We have reviewed the success of the program over the years. We found out that companies that received grants, conditional grants from Bird Energy program, were able to raise $840 million after they received the grant from the program. We also noticed that several Israeli companies also went IPO. Actually, one of them, we're going to hear from it soon, so I'll let them speak. The program, as I said before, is supported by the DOE, the Ministry of Energy in Israel, and the Israel Innovation Authority. So we get a lot of publicity if the projects are awarded. And notes, and also important to mention that the receiving funding from the Bird Energy helps the companies to receive a stamp of approval that helps them at the end of the day to raise additional funds. This is the commitment that it helps them to accelerate delivery and time to market. So that's in a nutshell what we do. And as I said before, we urge you to reach out to us. We will help you. We'll help you in terms of introductions, and we will support you in your submission process. In the end of the day, we want to see more advanced technologies that are being developed and being commercialized and helping to make a better world for all of us and also generate revenue that can benefit the companies and the economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Limor. So I am going to share the next presentation. Let me just pull it up here, make sure you can all see it. Okay, does everybody see the presentation? Okay, so we have one of our bird projects, local bird energy funded project from Miami. Blink has a project with Zeus Power, recently called Zeus Power, priorly Chakratech. So we have from Blink Energy, Jeff Kaskulix. He is the Senior Product Development Engineer and significant on this particular project, and he will be joined by Boaz Wiener, who's the CEO of Zeus Power. So I'm going to start by turning it over to Jeff.
Thank you, Andrea. Good morning, everybody. Good day to my colleagues around the world. My name is Jeff Kaskulix, and I'm the Senior Product Development Engineer at Blink Charging. And I'd also like to welcome Boaz Weiser. Boaz, would you like to say hello to everyone?
It's a pleasure to be here, and you know, a very exciting event, and hopefully we'll be able to share with you a very successful collaboration we have with Blink through this platform of the Bird Foundation. So thank you for the opportunity, and in a minute you will hear more about us. Go ahead, please, Jeff.
Thank you, Boaz. So I'd like to just talk about the problem of transportation and energy storage in transportation, just to speak on a very general level, non-technical level, that transportation is really an energy management problem. That transportation in any form requires motion, kinetic energy, and it takes other forms of energy to make that happen. So in this picture, we have a number of different types of transportation, ranging from the space shuttle in the upper left to a bird on the lower right. And these are all moving things that move through our world, and they require energy to do so. Now they require different forms of energy and different ways of converting that energy into kinetic energy. And so we have a challenge in today's world where we're facing problems like climate change, where we want to change the way we want to power our transportation network. So in this case, what we're trying to do is to get to electric vehicle energy storage and charging. So next slide, please. So at Blink, we make products to charge electric vehicles. And on the left, we have our low power AC products. These are the kind of things that you'd find in homes and businesses where a car can park for a long time and slowly drink in the energy to fill the battery. However, on the right, we have something that looks more like a gas pump, and that's the DC fast charger. And the idea behind a DC fast charger is kind of like a gas pump. You pull up your car to the DC fast charger, you plug in, and then in a few minutes, your battery is ready to go for another couple hundred miles. But in order to do so, it requires a very high power, very large demand of energy from the grid, and that can be a challenge in certain cases. Next slide, please.
I don't know why it's not moving. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Thank you. So here we have a picture of the DC fast charging stations, and these offer a number of benefits. They're sleek, they're stylish, they look good, and they really mimic the way that we fuel our fossil fuel vehicles today. They look like gas pumps, and they essentially behave like them. And in these, we're showing models that are starting at 50 kilowatts. We have models that go up to 175 and even 350 kilowatts in Europe. Next slide, please. So Blink also offers energy services. In order to deliver energy to vehicles, we have to make sure that we can be compatible with the power grid. And in cases where there is limits in the amount of power that we can draw from the grid without causing problems, we have to plan for that and be able to store energy on site so that it's ready to deliver to vehicles in a short amount of time at high power. And so Blink offers energy services which include demand response and storage, which is really the subject of our collaboration with Zeus Power. Next slide, please. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Zeus and to Boaz if we'd like to hear about the flywheel energy technology that is the subject of our collaboration.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. Actually, as a kind of a background, I would like to add, as mentioned before, until recently we were called Chakratech. This is how most people know us. We have just finalized a branding process in which we changed our name to Zeus Power. In short, you can call us Zeus. And we are a public company through an IPO, which was completed in March 21 in the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. And we are working with Blink over the past 2 years. I think very successful collaboration. And what we aim to achieve is to enable ultra-fast charging and do that anywhere. For that, as I'm going to explain in a minute, we are introducing a new technology. And doing that, we need to have a strong partner, especially when we are about to enter a new territory like the U.S. And that's what we are doing together with Blink. So what we do are power boosters, aiming to enable ultra-fast charging anywhere. So Jeff just explained about DC fast chargers. When we talk about ultra-fast, it's really about the user experience, enabling the charging of a vehicle within only a few minutes. Next slide, please. So I think it's obvious to say, you know, time is money. It's very clear why you actually need this capability of ultra-fast charging. But as was just explained by Jeff, this is a significant challenge to the grid. In most locations, the grid infrastructure is not capable to provide the huge power which is required for ultra-fast charging. Just as a kind of an example, in order to have ultra-fast charging, you need 150 kilowatt. That's the average consumption of something like 40 to 50 households consumption, meaning it's always, when you are trying to charge only one electrical vehicle fast as we are trying to do, it's like powering the entire neighborhood. And that's a real challenge. Please, next slide. The way we are trying to solve this challenge or this problem is actually placing a power booster in a location where the grid is power constrained. Generally speaking, we are storing energy, but we are not the regular energy storage like using batteries like everyone else. We specialize in power boosting, meaning we are actually charging this capsule that you see, the power booster, when the charger is idle, when there is no vehicle being charged. However, once the electrical vehicle is connected to the DC fast charger, we are flushing the energy from our system, and this very rapid surge of energy, this is exactly what accelerates this process of charging the vehicle. By that, you know, we are always talking about electrical vehicles and the sustainability revolution. In order to have electrical vehicles anywhere, you need to roll out vast deployment of ultra-fast chargers like that, have a user experience like you have when you are trying to fuel your vehicle with only a few minutes. And we believe that significant deployment of such a power booster can really allow this rollout of DC fast chargers. Next slide, please. So I explained before, I will not go into the technical details, but actually everyone are talking about lithium-ion batteries when they are talking about energy storage. For that specific application, if you are trying to do that with batteries, you get significant degradation of the batteries, which is not really a sustainable solution, especially when we are talking about chemical batteries. So we are trying to solve this problem in a significantly different way than others. We are storing energy in flywheels. We are storing kinetic energy, completely sustainable solution, much more cost effective because of the longevity of the solution. And actually what you see in front of you is the system that we are developing in the past 2 years in collaboration with Blink. The US configuration of the system is basically built and developed with the assistance of BIRD, with the funding of BIRD. And we are just only a couple of months away from having our first system being launched, delivered to the US, to a pilot site that we are going to have with Blink in Miami Beach. So actually talking about Florida, you're also in the right place. And I really think, just to sum everything I said, doing a sustainable revolution requires new technology. In order to introduce new technology, you need to have a support of a partner like BIRD, a support of a partner like Blink, or actually the front to the market. I think we have really very fortunate working with them from the marketing requirements that were developed together. And again, through all the development until actually testing the system together in a pilot site in the US. I think everything that we are going to learn from this process, and this testing of the pilot system in Miami Beach is going to be significant for us as the first step of penetration to the US market. And again, thank you, Jeff, for your support, and obviously Limor and the entire BIRD team to make this happen. Andrea, you are muted.
Here we go. Sorry about that. So before we move on to the next, just a quick question. If you could kind of tell the audience if you have any kind of best practices, any advice that you may have for collaborating with a company in Florida or in the United States in general, anything that people should consider when they're thinking about engaging in this type of program in joint development with a partner.
But, you know, my 2 cents, and it's really 2 cents, is the synergy has to be very clear. I think if I take our example, we bring technology to a very specific need out of many other things that Blink are doing. But I think the synergy of our technology with the different solutions and products that they are a major charge point operator in the US, I think this is the building block of a very successful technology. We are not competing in any way. And by that, I think we have a very fruitful discussion, very open discussion. So I think once it all starts, maybe with the executive summary that Limor just explained about just a few minutes before. But I think in this phase, once you have a very clear understanding what is the contribution of each side, everything else falls apart. I think both sides have the motivation to work together and to make it successful, because it's going to be the success of both parties. And once you have this kind of a balance of needs and motivation, I think it's the foundation of a very successful collaboration later on.
Thank you. And you didn't mention, but I think people would be curious to find out how the two companies met.
I have to admit that it's not for me to say, because I joined the company only 6 months after the program have started. From hearing about this from Aviv Hillel, which is actually former Israeli, but he's also general counsel of Blink, and the founder of Chakratech at that time, who was part of this formation of this partnership. I think they actually met just a Blink trying to look on Israeli technologies. Ilan at that time, that's the former CEO, the founder of Chakratech, looking on potential US partners for such a development. And from there, I think, as I mentioned before, it looks like it was a match, a very good match by both parties. Like always, there are, you know, these business arguments, if I would say, or I think it's just natural. And I think, again, hearing from what they tell us, what they told me, it's really the motivation of both parties to find a way to work together and build, based on that, a better solution that for us, a gateway, a front in the US, and for Blink, something that will enhance their portfolio. That's with the support of the team at BIRD. That's they told me not completely smooth, but not far from that. So I think it goes back to what I said before. If there is a clear understanding what's the contribution of each side, everything else falls very well into a successful collaboration.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are going to now move on in our program. We are very fortunate to have two organizations with us, one from Israel, one from Miami-Dade, that support entrepreneurship and clean tech companies. So we're going to start with Ophir Gomet, the CEO of Capital Nature, and Rebecca Negro Roca, who manages growth programs at Endeavor Miami. So I am going to start with Rebecca. Rebecca, can we see you?
Can you hear me? Can you see me okay?
Yes, there you are. Hello. So we're going to do this in a more informal way. So this is going to be kind of just a discussion as opposed to having slides. So I have some questions for both Rebecca and Ophir. Starting with Rebecca. Can you share with us, both our participants in the United States and Israel, what is the purpose of Endeavor Miami? How do you support entrepreneurs that are faced on energy and climate change?
Perfect. So Endeavor is a global organization that supports high impact entrepreneurship. What that means is that we support founders that are leading companies, disrupting industries, and that have the potential to scale significantly in terms of wealth creation and job creation. Our expertise is in scaling up those companies in underserved markets where there isn't the support that you would find in places like Silicon Valley and New York. So we become that support system for entrepreneurs by helping them find capital, talent, make commercial introductions. But most importantly, we build peer networks and offer mentorship to them to help them understand the path towards scale. We've been around for 25 years. We have offices in 45 different countries, and our operations in Miami started back in 2013. And we support founders at various points of their growth journey, both in early stages, post-launch, and later stages in the couple millions in the annual revenues all the way to exit.
Thank you. Ophir, we're moving on to you. Make sure we can see you.
Yeah, I'm here. Hello,
there you
everybody.
are. Hi. Hello. How does Capital Nature support and promote early stage ventures that are focused on climate change? And second, follow up to that is what are your investment criteria?
Sure. Thanks, Sandra. And hello, everybody. And it's really a great honor to be here. So Capital Nature, just a couple of words about us and what we do. We've been promoting Israeli early stage climate tech startups and entrepreneurs for over a decade now. I think it's a couple of years or more than a couple of years before this came the bon ton of current investment trends. We understood back then that a cleaner world and a carbon neutrality world would actually be reached only with new technologies and with groundbreaking technologies. I think that despite the many difficulties, we strongly believe, and we're doing that for a decade now, and I think Boaz from Zeus, is a good example for that. We believe for a decade now that despite the difficulties, the economics of the climate tech VC funding goes very well side by side with supporting the trends of making this a cleaner world. So it's sort of a two in a box for us, both saving the planet and making some money. Our criteria for investments you're asking about are not too many and not too complex. First of all, we invest in Israel, or more specifically, Israeli-related entrepreneurs and startups. So we don't invest all around the world, but we do support Israeli entrepreneurs around the world. That we do, but we're trying to look for the common language in that sense. We are looking for technology based. So deep technology is something that we like to look for and to support. Again, I think Zeus is a good example of how many years and what it takes to take a very deep and strong technology flywheel in that example, all the way through to a successful product. We invest in early stage, so we know it takes years, but we are up for that. And of course, in the climate domain, which we set it to be as energy, sustainable mobility, construction tech, and circular economy. So it's not only energy, but a little bit wider, everything to do with carbon and decarbonization. And of course, as everybody else, we always look for the perfect entrepreneur and for the ultimate market.
Thank you. So this is a question for both of you, and I'll start with you, Ophir, since I already have you on here. From your perspective, what are the main challenges that are currently faced by entrepreneurs that are active in the area of energy and climate change?
Right. So I think, despite given that this is a relatively good, this is sort of a good era for climate, and a lot of investments are pouring in, a lot of good vibes in this domain, I think still climate tech is indeed a more challenging environment. First, many of the cases involve both software and hardware, making it longer and steeper a way to climb. I think that, obviously when you talk about software, it takes quicker and cheaper to get to the market. Second, we usually try to solve challenges in the low-tech industries. Well, we are not low-tech, or those companies are not low-tech, they're high-tech companies, but they try to solve challenges in the low-tech industries, such as energy production and construction, for example, and so on, which are tougher to penetrate and takes more time and more convincing to do. Both of these, and there are also some other issues, makes this domain a relatively slower domain. It requires more patient capital, and it's not that it is not always there. There are no many VCs, at least in Israel and I think around the world, that are investing in early stage climate hardware related companies. It's hard to come by these such as we do. I think that on the other hand, this coin has a second side to it. Disruption is a must for these sort of low-tech industries. All those old school players and industries must undergo a change. It's obvious for everybody. It's seen everywhere, and that's where the opportunity lies, and that's where implementation of data-driven processes, adoption of AI and ML-based tools, etc., are the opportunity.
Thank you. Rebecca, what can you add from your perspective for your entrepreneurs?
Yeah, well, I agree with everything that Ophir just mentioned. I would say that in our experience with Florida, there's still even though we're in the perfect markets for clean and energy companies, there's still a little bit of stigma as to that being social impact, when in fact these are just companies that are very much needed in our market nowadays, number one. Number two, I agree with Ophir, the type of capital that is needed, the type of scalability and skill, the process towards scale that these companies go through is not as straightforward as we see with software. And so you require a lot of people that understand that to be able to support them with the right capital. But most importantly, and I'm happy to talk about that in the next few questions, is that we've seen a lot of companies that require the support from government in business development, right? They need the opportunities to be able to put forth their technologies, to run pilots, because many times these technologies require that citywide, statewide level of engagement. And if these opportunities are not made available, it's very hard for them to be able to test the technology and see if they can actually make a difference in that space.
Thank you. Ophir, I'm bringing it back to you for a moment. Can you tell us about the Global Climate Challenge that you're organizing in Israel, where I understand that the winner can receive a $1 million capital investment? So tell us about that. And as a follow-up question, can Florida-based companies or other U.S. companies also participate in this competition?
That's a great point. Thank you for bringing it up. But I want to, even for this point, read what Rebecca was saying, because at the end of the day, you need to partner, you need to collaborate if you want to bring your technology all the way to a project, into the market, and to be able to scale it up. And this is what we did in this, we call the CSP, the Climate Solution Prize. By the way, actual submission deadline is today. So
too late.
Yeah, well, we do have a couple of hours still left in the day in Israel, but in the US even more. Anyway, we joined forces with exceptional partners in this program, both NGOs like the JNF and multinational corporations like Temasek and SolarEdge. So it's global and it's all around there. And we tried to create a unique value proposition for the entire ecosystem, for the entire Israeli ecosystem in that sense. For researchers, for startups, for companies looking to pivot, even big companies or more veteran companies, to pivot into this space. Capital Nature is leading the investment track and will invest invest $1 million in the winning startup at favorable terms. There are other tracks in that program, including research grants and corporate pilots and POCs. Again, as Rebecca was mentioning, another opportunity is various climate vectors. Unfortunately, not only that it's only today, last day of submission is today, is that it's an Israeli-related competition, meaning it's aiming at the research centers based in Israel. Criteria is that the R&D is based in Israel. However, I think that's a good opportunity. Well, again, only a couple of hours left, but theoretically, it's a good opportunity to partner up for US companies, for Florida companies, to partner up with Israeli companies. It's not a bird scheme, but more or less, sort of same, to partner up and through the Israeli partner submit. And by the way, it's going to be continuous. This is the first year, but it's going to be continuous every year. So if not for today, then for next year. It will allow also the joining of forces and the building of opportunities in the climate Israeli related.
Thank you. And I think there's a theme here in collaborate. So, and that's both with what you're doing, what we're doing, and I think a really important part of this whole discussion. Rebecca, recently, Endeavor has selected 10 startups to participate in an accelerator program devoted to clean energy and climate technology. Can you tell us about the program? And similarly, will Israeli companies with offices in South Florida be eligible to participate in future programs?
Awesome. So like I was mentioning a few minutes ago, we work with founders at various points of the inflection points. Various inflection points in the growth journey. And so this program was for founders or companies generating at around 500,000 in annual revenues. And it's called Endeavor Lab. It's an Endeavor in a nutshell initiative where in 2 months we support them through the core growth challenges, through mentorship, the support of their peers, bringing guests from our network to talk about their own experiences scaling companies, and with a closing demo day. So the program was primarily virtual, and we had a closing event where investors were invited and government as well. And we had a mix of companies, well, all Florida-based companies, because we work with Florida-based companies. But we had a mix of seawall. We had one company doing seawalls, another one doing carbon sequestration, EVs, solar energy, even vertical indoor farming. So it was really cool to see the types of technologies being built in Florida. And so we do have other cohorts that that exist throughout the year, both for that stage of companies and for later stage companies. Israeli companies are welcome to apply as long as they have either an office in Florida or one of the co-founders is in Florida. And yeah, maybe perhaps if they're bigger than the stage of these companies, or you can apply to the later stage initiatives as well, which are very similar, but they just vary by company stage.
Great, thank you. It sounds exciting, important topics. So finally, and I'll start with Rebecca. Any tips that you can provide to entrepreneurs who are working on their own startups that you've seen from your experience? And then we'll turn it over to Ophir for some tips that he might have.
Well, I think everyone always says about having a really good team around you. I think that is very important. But also very important is to make sure that you have something unique in your value proposition. Sometimes people reinvent the wheel or don't really understand what is the need in the market. Sometimes founders build companies because they think there's a need when the need isn't necessarily there. So I think that's very important at early stages. And then once you launch your company and you start growing, understanding how the community can support you. Endeavor is an ecosystem builder, and so there are resources around you to either fund you or to mentor you or to just connect you to people that are doing the same thing you're doing. So making sure that you're reaching out so that you can propel your growth with the support of others around. That's what I'd say.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with everything Rebecca said, of course, about the team, the market need, and the partnerships all the way to the product. I would maybe just add, think big, dream big, because we're changing the world, and the entire industry is pivoting. I mentioned it earlier. VCs are pivoting, academia researchers are pivoting, companies, very, very, experienced companies and big companies are pivoting towards climate. So this is a very good time to think big, to have big dreams. People will follow you. You need to be patient. You don't give up. Knock on the doors, as any entrepreneur should do in any way, but even more. And eventually, I'm sure, and we see it already happening, we'll make it happen. We'll bring in the H2 to support the energy, and we'll make it happen. So be patient, don't give up, dream big. That's it.
Yeah, I just have to add, I agree with you. I happen to be speaking to you from the ARPA-E conference that I'm attending. It's very exciting here in Denver, Colorado. And what I'm hearing here is all about think big. And what people are really excited about here at the conference is that there's a lot of money for the first time since like the 70s. So we're hearing all about thinking big, scaling up, and big opportunities right now. Great time to be in this space. So with that said, and we're going to get to some Q&A later on, but I am really excited to introduce for concluding remarks and to give some of his thoughts on these topics. I'd like to introduce Dr. Galen Trower. Dr. Trower is advisor to Miami Mayor Francis Suarez for Cleantech and Economic Innovation at the Miami-Dade County Office of Economic Development. Galen, do we have you on here?
Yeah, I'm right here. And I just want to say I am the advisor to County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava. It's super confusing. We have 35 mayors in Miami-Dade County, so no problem, but I want to get that right. This is so exciting. I think I want to echo what Matt Hagman was saying at the beginning. Climate change is a huge challenge here, but it's also probably our biggest opportunity because we see that we have to change, and the county and the cities here are collaborating. We have Resilience 305, which is a joint resilience strategy. And out of that, we have strategies for reducing greenhouse gases, for dealing with sea level rise, for cleaning up the bay. And we have really clicked into an implementation mode. We see a moment here where there's capital and a need. And so I think the discussions that I saw today, the example of Blink and zoos is just great. Like, we want Miami-Dade County to be the place where you can build and scale. And we recognize working with Endeavor that maybe we don't have all of the solutions here right now, but we want to be the place where we can bring them in, right? So this collaboration is key. And I think that something that I want to share and be clear about is that the mayor here sees the environment, the economy, equity, and engagement with all of you as essential pieces to our success, right? So my whole job is climate and the economy. And so if there's something that I can do to help you out, just let me know, right? So if you are an Israeli company trying to get in here, please reach out. And if you're local, we really want to help you out. I see Ivan from Watsco. I really hope that you guys are able to find a way to do a collaboration. I challenge all of you to do an application to BIRD. And if there's something that we can do to help you out, just let me know. I'm so excited about these conversations and the investments that are being made to really make Miami-Dade a leader in this. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Galen.
Yeah, thank you. Limor, I can turn it over to you. We're going to do some Q&A. Galen, I hope you'll stay with us. I'm sure some people might have some questions. We have a couple more minutes left. I guess people can either ask, or if we can send some chats, and Limor, you can moderate that. Okay, so we have two people who have raised their hand. Okay, I'm going to ask you to unmute Dr. Rushinek.
Hi, we are professors at the University of Miami. We are involved in testing EVs. My brother is also the chief engineer of Mobileye, and we test EVs for the city of Coral Gables and the campus of the University of Miami. They have shuttles that they are planning to turn into electronic vehicles. So we want to know how we can invite you to speak about it and maybe collaborate with our own companies, the University of Miami and the city of Coral Gables, and also Mobileye in Israel. You understand, Israelis understand my accent, and Sarah can repeat it in English, so the rest of you can understand too. So just say a couple of words in summary so they can understand.
So we're working with a number of Israeli companies that are also doing for water, sewer, for prevention as well, and also being able to look at energy consumption.
Anyone want to take a stab at that?
Yes. So first of all, thank you for sharing this information with us. We'll be more than happy to support, the partnership between American companies and the Israeli companies. And at the same time, I'm sure Enterprise Florida will also be very interested in supporting Israeli companies who may want to build their offices in Florida and partner with you. I think also other people here from our group is keen on supporting this effort, whether it's through funding through the BIRD Foundation or any other type of support that can be given by the government organizations that are based in Florida. Anybody else want to add anything?
So I'm going to move.
I forgot just a second. I forgot to tell you. What we are doing is, this is an example. We are using a mixed reality. So what you see us wearing is a device that can broadcast and record, and is designed to demonstrate things like this. So I tell it, stop recording, and you heard the noise that it stops recording, and then I tell it, record video. So it is hands-free, and it is designed to demonstrate new technologies and broadcast them on the site, hands-free and worldwide, and promote them on the search engine by reverse engineering algorithms such as Google, YouTube, and the rest of the search engines.
Very cool. I think we have a lot of people on here that would be interested in learning more and seeing how we can all help and support. I am going to turn it over to Leanne Ventura. Leanne, can you unmute yourself there? Okay, I see you have. What is your question?
Leanne Ventura, Senior Vice President for International for the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce. We just recently returned from Israel and met with over 40 companies there to experience their innovation and try to work with them as they enter the Florida market. My question is a question that has arisen from a lot of folks that are purchasing e-vehicles, including myself. Does fast charging compromise the battery life? And if so, how short will the battery life be?
So that sounds like it is a question for Zuz or Blink, Boaz, Jeff.
Sure, I'll take that, Andrea. Thank you. In regards to the battery life, when fast charging, there is a known impact on the battery life of vehicles due to the rate of charge. There's a couple of ways that we mitigate that. One is by setting a limit to the maximum charge. Usually fast charging is done to about 80% of the state of charge of the battery. So there's ways to mitigate that as well.
Excellent, thank you. Next question, Andre Avello.
Hi, how are you? I'm Andres, co-founder and CEO of Paddle. My company, we have self-service paddleboard rentals throughout Miami and Florida. I have a question related really to the BIRD funding and how it works. So we have an initiative that we've already been, we're at the tail end of the initial R&D phase just to get out a prototype, where we're adding water quality sensors to the hull of some of the boards and kayaks that we'll have in the market, so that when paddlers go out into the water, they can collect key information on water quality, including salinity levels, pH levels, water temperature. And we're also adding on the stations themselves, we have solar powered stations that really run the entire operation, adding air quality sensors to be able to collect atmospheric data. while that's not our core business, and it's kind of something that we're adding in as a layer into our business as the next step, is that something that would fall into the parameters of the funding initiative?
I'll let Limor. Limor, do you want to say a few words?
I think the most important part is like to try to define who will be your partner in the Israeli market. What is the final outcome of the project that you want to develop together? If I understand correctly, you have sensors that collect information, analyze it, and try to create some guidelines for the users. So at the end of the day, I think maybe in a separate conversations, we can try to define what are the missing technologies that you are looking to incorporate in your technology, and then we can try to help you out in finding a partner. I have to say, we're not magicians. We don't always know all the technologies. We don't have all the expertise, and you have to understand that part too. But we will talk to the companies, try to define and have like a brainstorming session to understand better your interests, and then come up with some suggestions for Israeli companies and try to see if we can create a conference call between the parties where they can explore this collaboration or this potential for collaboration further. So we'll be in touch with you after this meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, an important part of defining these collaborations always is what is the complementary technology. So what are you seeking that's going to enhance or add to what you're already doing? What technology is it? And then we work together to try to identify who those companies are and make introductions to them.
Of course.
So,
no, and that makes a ton of sense. I'll keep it short and sweet, but essentially I see a lot of value in being able to partner with a company that is already developing or already manufactures some sort of similar technology that we can leverage to be able to simply implement onto our existing equipment. At the end of the day, we're not going to be the manufacturer, so by partnering with an existing manufacturer, someone who's already developing this would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and sometimes we do have projects that are focused on testing, doing demos, so that is a part of the program and part of the activities that we fund. I am going to turn it to Gideon Miller, who has been waiting patiently. Gideon.
Hi, thanks. Just a quick technical question. You mentioned that the executive summaries are due the end of June, and then you'll be reviewing them and suggesting if to submit full proposals. When will the suggestions be coming out? I mean, how much time do companies have between the time you give an indication and the full proposal is due?
That's a very good question. Usually we receive the executive summary if it's going to be by the end of June. We usually take about a week to review those executive summaries, and then the companies receive a letter, a recommendation letter to prepare or not to prepare a full-scale proposal. The proposal are going to be submitted. The deadline currently is August 16th. So the companies do have the time to prepare properly a full-scale proposal.
So we'd get the indication sort of the first or second week of June. One way or the other.
July.
Oh, July. Sorry, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And again, I always recommend the companies to be in touch with us before submission so we can help you and support you in the proposal and give you some guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
And now I see we have from the MITRE Corporation, Jim Hurst. Welcome to the webinar. What is your question? And by the way, the MITRE Corporation is part of one of our consortium in the U.S. Israel Energy Center in our cyber energy program. Not sure if you're part of that initiative.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. Jim Hurst from the MITRE Corporation. My question is actually just kind of a general meeting, kind of a summary question. I know we're running out of time here, but I'm wondering if there's going to be a summary of the attendees. And as a company, as part of the consortium in South Florida and developing our climate platform and innovation hub activities, we're interested in finding those companies that are interested and would love a summary of some sort. Andrea, is that going to be included in some fashion or another?
So we're definitely going to have a recording and the presentations. Limor, will we have a list of the participants available?
We're probably not going to be able to share the list of participants, but obviously if you have specific questions, please reach out to us.
Or at least the companies that are involved. Is that a capability?
We can definitely share the information of the company received funding for the Bird Energy program. It's actually on our website. So if you have specific questions, we'll be more than happy to answer it. But after.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Limor, do you want to say any concluding remarks before we end?
Yes, I want to say thank you for all of you that participated. I think all of you are committed, all of us are committed to promote the collaboration between American companies and Israeli companies. I want to thank specifically our wonderful organization, the people who are working with us closely to put together this webinar, but not just this webinar, really to promote the Florida-Israel relationship. I want to say thank you to Limor Ashkenazi, who is a great partner. I want to say thank you to Greg, who was initiated this webinar, who's done a great job. So I cannot see you right now. And also, obviously, Mike from the consulate. So thank you all for participating. And hopefully we'll see more good quality partnerships that will come out of this meeting and our work together. Thank you.
And thanks so much to both Andrea and to you, Limor, as well, for making this possible and for creating awareness about this bird project in Florida.
Thanks to all of you. Good evening in Israel and morning and afternoon here in the United States.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.